Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host of the most, as always, Francois878, and today I'm bringing you a very special episode of Let's Play Warframe. The subject matter on this particular episode is going to be the TennoLive 2015 panel that Digital Extremes held at PAX East on March 6th, 2015. My goal with this video is to kind of give you guys a concise summary, hopefully around 10 to 15 minutes, of the entire hour show, and also provide my opinions on some of the big reveals. We're going to skip anything that I didn't find super relevant or that wasn't a big reveal. So all the who won the prizes, oh boy, I don't care. But first big reveal is the final user-created melee weapon has been revealed. It's called the Mios. It looks like a short picture one of Kratos's swords from God of War, like really short but really fat, and that's kind of what the sword looks like. It also looks like it has a slight infested look along the back of the blade. So, all in all, it looks really badass, just the sword itself, but it also looks like there is an actual, wire or whip item that leads from the handle down. So, I'm not sure if it's a whip or if it's a chain, so you can actually kind of fight like Kratos would with the chains, so you can, kind of throw the sword out and then just pull it back. Either way, the weapon looks badass. They said it's still in the mesh phase, so there's still going to be some time left before we see it. But it looked really badass and just a really cool looking melee weapon. It also looks like it could be themed towards dragons, like a dragon fang. For the new dragon frame, which we'll talk about later on, is also another possibility instead of the infested look. And they said it'd be early 2015, but I'm thinking probably more like mid 2015 for the release of that. But we'll see. Next up, they mentioned the new Dex weapon, which a lot of people already know about because of data mining. The new Dex weapon is the Dex Dakara. It is basically a dual Dakara with Lotus artwork on it, and it looks really, really badass. We'll see how it performs versus the regular Dakara Prime. I'm not holding my breath, because I'm assuming it will use a dual sword stance and not Crimson Dervish, so I'm assuming it won't be as good as that Dakara Prime, but I'm hoping it's still at least respectable in the damage department. And if anything else, I mean, it's our yearly reward for playing Warframe, and it looks pretty damn badass. So, and it comes pre-potatoed, and it has a free slot that comes with it. So, I mean, it's a free weapon. You can't, there's no point in turning down a free weapon or bitching about a free weapon. So, next up, they also showed pictures of the Proto-Glaive. It's going to be a glaive weapon that deals puncture damage. I guess a lot of people in the community have been complaining that there's a distinctive lack of puncture weapons amongst melee weapons, which is kind of true. 90%, well, okay, maybe 80% of them, 80% of the melee weapons deal slash damage, 18% of them deal impact damage, like the hammers and whatnot, and the last 2%, I think there may be one or two weapons that deal primarily puncture damage, if even that, for melee weapons. So people are pretty excited. The weapon itself looks really cool too. It looks it looks more badass than the glaive or the glaive prime. Those are my biggest complaints about those weapons, is that they just don't look very good. And also the performance stats-wise is, less than desirable. But with that, they also started to talk about charge attacks. Now, charge attacks were a major thing back before channeling and before Melee 2.0, and they took them out in lieu of channeling. channeling kind of replaced charge attacks. But since they've introduced Melee 2.0, I guess they have been reconsidering that. However, the team would have to go back through every stance that they have and redo the stances with consideration to charge attacks. So it might be something that happens, but I don't look for that to happen definitely not in Update 16, maybe by Update 17, maybe after Update 17. It's going to be a while. It is going to be a long while before we see charge attacks. But according to them, right now, as of Tenno Prime 2015, it's at least on the table. So if you're a charge attack lover, there is hope. Though a very thin glimmer of light. Next up, we saw some footage of Volt Prime. There was an official reveal as well as an obnoxious amount of puns dealing with electricity and Volt's abilities. Again, this is something that most people already knew because of data mining. There was a video reveal. It was just the kind of the teaser trailer that we see in the beginning of every Prime Access. It's like, real super duper close up panning shots of the armor and stuff. And I knew who it was immediately because of the armor. But at the end, they're like, ooh, a brilliant tactician, is revealed. And I'm like, I don't really feel like Volt. When they said tactician, that kind of threw me. I was like, are they doing Vauban Prime just to say fuck you to everybody who did the data mining and whatnot? But as it turns out, they then started saying the Volt puns. So, we all knew, and that quote at the end kind of threw me because I don't consider Volt to be a tactician at all. But I guess I'm wrong. But he looks pretty cool. Everybody likes Volt well enough. I like Volt. I don't play a lot of Volt, but he's a very interesting character. He has a lot of good buffs for the team. Electric Shield and Speed are really nice. I don't know if I've ever used Overload or Shock. I've used Shock a couple times, but Overload, Then they from the Volt Prime, discussion, they then went to, Void and getting your Prime parts from the Void. And this is probably something that created a lot of fuss in the crowd as well as in the Twitch chat. That they've decided to kind of start to phase out the Void. Void, I don't think Void is entirely going to disappear. I think Void will still, I think for the most part the Void will continue to be there. But they're also trying to encourage people to play different map types, like, different maps as well as different game modes like Hijack. And, stuff that's not in the Orkin maps as of right now. Their hope is to, be able to put, Void rewards into the star chart. So you can play, difficult levels in the star chart, but get the rewards as if it was a Void mission. So... And they're going to do that with keys somehow. They were the way they said it was kind of confusing, and they left it very vague. You're going to have a key to unlock a map on a certain planet that will then reward you with a certain Prime part, but I don't know if you need a specific key for a specific Prime part, or if there's a limited number of Prime parts, or, what planets those will be included on. They left it very open and very vague, and we'll see what happens. I'm assuming that they're not just going to say, hey, fuck you, Void, we don't want you anymore. They did mention that the Void would now just simply have more greater rewards, so I'm assuming that... I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and I'm going to keep my eye on it for the next... I think a lot of people should definitely keep their eye on it over the coming months. But we may be losing the Void to a point. We may be losing some of the Void, as it were. Like I said, I don't think they're going to get rid of it entirely. but I think that it's going to be much harder to just go in and farm prime pieces and stuff in the Void. I think a lot more of that will be done on the star chart now. And I think that's DE's attempt to try and have the player play like Hijack and the new spy missions and just new game types. And I'm okay with that, as long as they implement it well. We'll see. I'm leery about it. I'd like to see how it works. They also then went on to talk about PvP 2.0 is what I'm calling it, because technically the Dark Sectors were the first PvP 2.0. So they just start they told us the same thing that they've been telling us. They're just working on the starting weapons and the starting frames, very limited. When it first releases, there's going to be 3 maps. There's going to be a bunch of new stuff. There's going to be a new Cephalon that's added that's kind of anti-Lotus, who you're going to buy. He's like the head of the Conclave, and you can use your Conclave points or whatever they reward you with after you win a match to buy gear for your PvP frames and whatnot. And he's anti-Lotus, and that's because he remembers what happened when the Orkin died off and what happened, when the frames were put into cryostasis. And so he's going to be good for the lore in that he will offer a different side of things and also be able to fill in lots of blanks, as well as just being, someone who the Tenno work with that isn't the Lotus and who doesn't like the Lotus, in fact. So I'm tentatively, I'm excited about it. I am excited about the PvP revamp to begin with. I think everybody hates the Dark Sectors. So even though I'm not really a big PvP guy, I'm excited to see what new stuff they can bring to the table, and also, this new aspect, this new Cephalon who's going to be bringing new lore and stuff will make things interesting for sure too. But where am I at? Oh, right here. They also started talking about, from there, they started talking about raids. They started talking about the first raid, which is the Law of Retribution, which is going to be basically a quest against Vayhek for destroying the relays. And what these are going to be are they're going to be 4 different sections of very high level enemies and puzzles and kind of crazy stuff like that. They're going to be aimed at 8 players, but they're going to hopefully try and balance it so it can be done with only 4, just in case you have like a couple of people drop, or somebody, whatever, their internet connection goes down, whatever. You can still hopefully pull it together and win, even though you don't have the full 8 players. And it's going to be harder. They're not looking to reduce enemy spawn rates or enemy level, or they're not gonna make any concessions for you just because you lost a player. But the balancing should be pretty reasonable, that 4 really good people should be able to do it, even if they don't have the full 8 people. Now, so they also talked about some of the rewards for these raids, these arcane upgrades. Now, the arcane helmets, that's what they called the older helmets for some of the older Warframes. The first batch of Warframes, really. Some of those Warframes, all of those Warframes had abilities, stat buffs, attached to their alternate helmets. So you could wear a certain helmet and get a certain buff and a certain debuff depending on which helmet you wore. And they took that out of the game because they thought it encouraged, people were, like, oh, well, I don't really like this mask, but I have to wear it because it works with my build. They felt like it was forcing people to choose a specific mask just because of a build. and the customization, they wanted people to be able to customize and do whatever they wanted, despite the build. So these arcane upgrades, you're going to be able to put them into your helmets and to your Sandanas at first. They're looking to upgrade to other pieces of cosmetic armor as well. But these arcane upgrades will grant small buffs to you. But most of them, I think all of them, they said they had to be triggered in some way. Like, you have to hit a status effect, or you have to hit a headshot, or your health has to be a certain level, or your energy has to be at a certain level, and then the buff activates. It's not just like a passive upgrade like the current arcane helmets are. It's just, it's completely customizable, and I think it is the best thing that they could have done. Because this way they're kind of bringing back that arcane. They're making the arcane helmets real, and not just like a throwback to all the old veterans who didn't want to give up their good helmets. And I'm a big fan, and it makes it so you can have that certain buff on the helmet that you want, even though you didn't before. Even though you couldn't have it before, you had to have a specific helmet. Now you don't have to, and I'm a big fan. All right. Next, they moved into the Sanctuary, the Warframe Sanctuary, which is the Librarian. It's the Cephalon Librarian, who's going to be part of the relays. He's kind of going to be like a collector. Basically, he's also a neutral syndicate. But basically, they're going to have like week-long events where the librarian will give you a scanner. It's not the codex scanner that you normally have. It's a special codex scanner. But you're going to go around and you're going to go collect samples of a specific creature, a specific enemy, and bring them back to... you're going to bring them back to the Cephalon, and he'll collect them. And, I'm assuming there'll be some kind of reward system based on, not only individual performance, but for the community as a whole. Though I'm not sure what entirely that is going to be. And I think that seems like a really cool idea. I think that will definitely encourage people to use their codex scanners more, and I think that those like week-long community-based challenges are really nice, because it makes, it gets people playing certain levels. If Digital Extremes can, look and be like, oh, well, X map's not being played a lot, let's do next week's scanner challenge to be an enemy on that, spawns on this map a lot. Boom, done. It can promote variety in the game as a whole. And right there, and then they very subtly, kind of segued into, because the Librarian will be a big part of the new Warframe that they're introducing in Update 16, whose name is Chroma. I'm not a big fan of the name, but it is the Dragon Frame. Now, this particular frame, they showed pictures of it. I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to, when it comes out, I'll buy it, and I'll take a look at it, because I don't know, it kind of looked a little funky when they revealed it. I want to be able to, really get my hands on it and look at it, though, because I want it to be really cool, because it's the actual color, it's the energy color that you're using actually determines the element of your attacks, of your abilities. So if you have like an orangey or a red energy color, your abilities will have a fire, it will spec fire, whereas if it's blue, it'll spec electricity. If it's white, it'll spec ice. And I think that is super I think that is probably one of the coolest Warframes we've had in a while. I think that adds that focuses on customization as a key gameplay element. You're like, oh, well, I want frost, so you have to pick white. I think it's a really cool gameplay element, and I'm can't wait to try Chroma out, because it's going to be badass. But it also, what they were talking about as far as the design goes, it has elements of European dragons and other, like, Chinese dragons as well. It's not just, destruction and mayhem. It's also, like, good luck and other things. So I'm assuming that Chroma will also have buffing abilities similar to Messa's shooting gallery, I believe. So I'm interested to see how that rolls out, and we'll see that in update 16. And then they tease the quote unquote big reveal as being the Rise of the Bunny, Easter 2015. I thought that was pretty interesting. I was a little mad about it. I was like, there's still 15 minutes though, so hopefully there's something else. It's just Tenno with bunny ears. That was all it was. I was pretty upset. I was like, there had better be something after this Q&A, or me and Digital Extremes are going to have some words. But then they did have the Q&A. There was nothing spectacular in it. They took 3 questions. They're basically, at the end, they're like, yeah, we're all about improving the game in 2015. I'm like, awesome, you improved that game, but I want new content too. That was kind of the whole point. They didn't reveal anything else in the Q&A. It was just, they were all pretty generic questions. But then they did it. This is the moment that really knocked my socks off. They revealed this new trailer for Tomb of the Sentients, and it looked badass. It highlighted Parkour 2.0, which I didn't think we were getting in Update 16, but we may actually be getting an Update 16 depending on when this particular quest line comes in. But it basically shows an Excalibur parkouring and murdering Grenier through the inside of this ship, also highlighting the underwater Grenier levels, which I thought were coming out in Update 16, but I could be totally wrong now. And it is the most, I can't describe to you the wall running, the vaulting back and forth. They stop on a line, like they're sliding down a line. They stop in midair, jump off to a wall, climb up the wall. It's glory. The parkour is going to be insane. The parkour is going to be insane. Like, the parkour is not that great right now in the game. There's a lot of, areas in the game where parkour is not really a thing. But if they can deliver on this, if they can deliver on this trailer, it is going to be bonkers. The trailer made it look fucking amazing. Absolutely incredible. But this Excalibur goes through this ship, parkouring it up, murdering Grenier, and he makes it out. He's on the deck, and he's got 4 buddies with him, killing Grenier too. And he looks up, and there's this ship that comes down from the sky and hovers and stops and starts dropping these robots, and it's almost chilling. And the robots don't make any noise either. They hover just above the ground when they fall. And I think I was expecting them to make a noise, and they didn't. And it was like, whoa, hold on now. And this is basically, and then it fades to black, and it's, Warframe, Tomb of the Sentients. And this is, I guess, the big reveal of the Cephalon faction as an enemy. I guess we're gonna go and find this rogue Cephalon, perhaps, and they're gonna employ this army of robots to come kill us, which I'm all for that. The Grenier are awesome, the Corpus are awesome, the Infested are awesome, and I love that they're adding new enemy types, but adding a 4th faction is definitely something that they need to do. And I'm very, very excited to see that's being something that's being worked on either in update 16 or in update 17. If it's in update 17 or if it's in update 16, it's been pretty well kept under wraps. But that's gonna finish up the TennoLive 2015 summary. Now that we're up to 25 minutes, I apologize. This was supposed to be shorter, but I had a lot to say. Like I said, I was pretty happy with the panel. It didn't really blow my socks off until the end with that final reveal trailer with all that parkour and the reveal of the fourth faction. That looks, it's going to be amazing. I'm very excited about it. But I think that's going to wrap up this episode, this special episode of Let's Play Warframe. I am your host of the most, as always, Francois878.